Hey guys, Scott here, and today I'm going to share with you some Kenner The Real Ghostbusters figures that have just arrived in the post. But before we get into the figures, Ghostbusters is a franchise that is really close to my heart. Now, the first Ghostbusters film came out the same year I was born, so obviously I didn't see that, or I don't remember seeing that until a little bit later in life. But the second Ghostbusters film was actually the first movie that I ever saw at the cinemas. And I remember my auntie taking me, and I was super excited. However, at the time, it absolutely scared the hell out of me. Just this notion of the painting of Vigo the Carpathian coming to life and looking for a child to possess terrified me. But with that said, I'm a big movie fan. I'm a huge fan of cinema, and it all started then. So it really is a positive memory that I look back on. Now, around about that same time, 1989, 1990. The Real Ghostbusters animated series was well into its run. Now, I don't actually remember seeing that as a kid. I was a big fan of cartoons, I watched a lot of them, but in my regular rotation of cartoon viewing, The Real Ghostbusters just wasn't there. One thing I was well aware of though was the range of Ghostbusters toys at the time. Now, my first experience with the Kenner The Real Ghostbusters toy line was in school holidays of 1989. So, December 1989, January 1990. And I was staying with my nan, and some of my other cousins were there. And I've got a cousin who is roughly the same age as me. And he had a nice little collection of Kenner Ghostbusters figures. Obviously Kenner The Real Ghostbusters figures, but at the time I didn't know of the animated series. I just assumed they were based on the films. Anyway, he had a few of the Fright Features Ghostbusters. He had the Ghost Zapper, which I thought was awesome. And I believe he had a tub of the Ectoplasm, or it could have been, a non-licensed knockoff, but whatever it was, we used it as Ectoplasm and covered the figures in it and had an awesome time. Now, I never actually ended up getting any Kenner Ghostbusters figures for myself. I was all in on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and from there I rolled straight into WWF Wrestling and WWF Wrestling Hasbro figures. But it's still a toy line that is close to my heart, and as an adult collector, it's one of my top 3 for sure. Now, I picked up this group of action figures via Facebook Marketplace. There's a whole lot of Facebook groups that I'm on that buy, sell and trade different figures. One of the groups that I'm on is a Ghostbusters action figure collectors group. And there was a guy on there who had a pretty cool shopping list of figures that he was selling and really good photos to go with. And when I see these sorts of listings that list individual figures at individual prices, normally there'll be, 1 or 2 that I want. I'm not trying to spend all my money on this hobby. It's something that's really important to me, but I'm just obviously trying to be reasonable, especially at this time with everything going on. But what I'll usually do is there'll usually be 1 or 2 or 3 figures that I really want, but I'm always open to scooping up some more if it means negotiating a better deal and saving on postage. So that's what we've got here. We've got, a couple of things that I really, really wanted, and I've added to that, and we've negotiated a price that I'm really happy with. Now, the figures have been packed and posted really well by the seller, but with that said, I've not cleaned them or given them any attention yet. Some are in really good condition, some not so much, but I think they'll all clean up a little bit. Now, first we'll start with the figure that I wanted most from the seller's shopping list of figures, and that is this 1987 Wave 2 Bad to the Bone figure. Now, I have wanted this guy for a long time. This figure was part of 3 Action Ghost figures that came straight after Wave 1, which obviously had, the iconic Slimer, aka the Green Ghost, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And the 3 Action Ghosts were the Bug-Eyed Ghost, the H2 Ghost, both of which I'm still looking for. But this guy's the guy that I wanted most, and that is, like I said, Bad to the Bone. Now, one of his little handles here is broken off. His head is obviously quite yellowed, so I want to see what I can do about that. And on the note of yellowing, obviously the Kenner Real Ghostbusters toy line had a lot of large white items. You've got the Firehouse, you've got the obviously the Ecto-1, you've got the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and you've got this guy. If anyone has any tips on trying to restore yellowing vintage action figures, if you guys could maybe give me some pointers in the comments, that would be awesome, because I really want to see if I can fix this. He's got the spring-loaded rib cage, so he interacts really nicely with the Ghostbusters. Just for scale, I've got one of the original series of Ghostbusters here, so I think the scale's really cool. But you know, this guy's gonna display really well. Now the next three figures that I've got here are part of the Haunted Human series, which were released in Wave 4 in 1988. And the first one here is Granny Gross. Now this Granny Gross is in really nice shape. The action feature works really well. This is definitely not a rare figure. I see her a lot at collector fairs and toy shows, but most of the ones that I see are in pretty bad shape. You know, they're really discolored and the action feature doesn't work properly. It's either stuck in this mode and the mouth, the jaw won't stay up, or you know, I can't get it out of the granny mode. This one, on the other hand, is in great shape. The color is still really strong. There's no noticeable yellowing or fading or you know, paint rubbing, and the action feature still works really well. Nice colors, you know, very reflective of the wackiness of the real Ghostbusters action figure line. So Granny Gross is a welcome addition to the collection. Next we've got another Haunted Human, and that is Tombstone Tackle. Now again, I see Tombstone Tackle a lot, but it's off, this white is often completely yellow. I think there's a little bit of yellowing on this version, but all in all, you know, he's in really good shape. Action feature still works well, but quite a bizarre one. He comes over, arms go down like this, and we reveal a bizarre sort of four-legged monster. Now, Tombstone Tackle's tiny little, bizarre little head here sort of works the, I guess the tongue or whatever that is. So yeah, so this is a fun one as well. This one's going to display really nicely as well. Now, one thing that was really bizarre with the Kenner, the Real Ghostbusters toy line, and in particular these Haunted Humans, is like the scale and proportion is just really strange. Like the, you know, the different body types, the different sizes of the head, you know, especially when you add to the mix one of the actual original sort of iconic Ghostbusters figures. They kind of look like they don't belong in the same universe, but you know, that was the wackiness of the toy line and I guess the 80s in general. So now finally we finish with one last Haunted Human, and it's one that I've been trying to get my hands on for a while now. I don't see a lot of them, especially in this good condition, and that's this X-Cop figure. X-Cop has a really nice, like flat, sort of matte paint, and that paint is in pretty good shape, and his action feature still works really nicely. We've got the legs and hands that come out, and lifting up the helmet reveals his ghostly identity. And a lot of really nice detail in this figure. Like I said, the paint is a nice matte finish. We've got the GB on the belt buckle. We've got the shades, we've got the badge. And again, I'm really happy to have this guy. Next we move from Wave 4 to Wave 5, which were released in 1989. Wave 5 was the same wave as the Screaming Heroes Ghostbusters. And you know, I've got a figure here that was one of the sort of lesser desired in the group just because it's not in great condition. With that said, I don't have him, and he completes the Wave 5 Monsters series, and I'm talking about the Zombie Monster. It's a really cool figure. He's you know, got great colors, some nice detail there with the bones around the neck. His action feature works. Squeeze the legs together, and I guess we see sort of a scare feature there. But like I said, he's not in amazing condition. He's unfortunately got some paint loss in the face, but that's okay. I got him at a good price, and he'll display well with the other monsters, which I think were Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, Quasimodo, and the Mummy. So he'll display well until I can get a better version of him. Finally, we finish with one last item that was also released in Wave 5 during 1989, and it is one of two haunted vehicles released, and I'm talking about Air Sickness. Now, along with the Bad to the Bone, this Air Sickness is the other item that I wanted most. It's complete, it's not easy to find, especially in this condition, and it's a really cool looking, you know, I guess figure and vehicle set. So we've got a pilot and his plane. There's some really cool detail there, and the pilot obviously has his sort of, I guess, fright feature articulation there. I've always thought this face was just awesome, just bizarre, but just great. I mean, very reflective of the 80s and especially this toy line. And then the plane itself comes apart. So we've got the wings turning into this sort of bat, ghostly bat. And then we have the motor itself coming off. Obviously that's how it looks when it's on the aircraft, but reveals itself as this little beast. And then the plane itself has sort of an articulated mouth and looks like this. I'm just trying to be careful with that seatbelt because the one fault with this air sickness is that seatbelt is, you know, looking close to breaking off. So I just want to take care around that. But that's it, guys. 6 new Kenner the Real Ghostbusters figures. None of these I had, none of these are doubles. Most of them in good condition. I'm really happy with this bad to the bone, although I do want to try and fix that yellowing if I can. If anyone has any advice for yellowing, like I said, I've got an Ecto 1, which is a little bit yellowed. So whatever treatment this gets, I'd like to give the Ecto as well. But really happy to have that guy. Super happy to have air sickness. You know, really happy to have these haunted humans in this sort of condition. So all in all, a really good pickup, and I'll see you soon for the next one. And the next one will be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vintage action figure pickup. I've got my hands on about 10 or 15 of those figures from different sources in the last 2 weeks, so I'll share those with you. I've also finally found a really cool glass display unit, which I'm trying to arrange delivery of at the moment, and that's going to be a big part of turning my study into a toy room and then moving these videos into there, so you've got a much better backdrop than this plain white wall. So a couple of things coming, and look forward to sharing those with you, and hope you're doing well. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.